I'm about to give you a fresh, creator-driven YouTube narration inspired by the event, with heavy original commentary and a take-no-prisoners analysis vibe. I'm not just repeating the AP article, I'm unpacking the moment, its implications, and what it signals about the game, media, and player psychology. Let's dive in. A quick hook: what happens when a freak accident meets elite sport? A thumb snag on an advertising hoarding during a Champions League night, a powerfully dramatic moment, and a team's fate shifting in a heartbeat. This isn't just a grim injury update, it exposes how a single instant can ripple through a club, a broadcast, and our perception of danger in football stadiums. So here's the setup in my own words: Lang's injury was not a tactical misstep or a clash of styles. It was a random, almost cartoonish mishap, one of those tiny, brutal nuances that remind us football is still a game run by human bodies, not robots. As Lang battled pain near the goal, blood streamed, and the medical staff moved with urgency. The footage hits different because we see the human cost of a sport that loves to celebrate speed, contact, and intensity. Let me unpack the key angles, with the kind of interpretation I'd riff on in a video stream. The fragility of the moment in a big competition. What this matters: in a tournament like the Champions League, a freak injury can tilt a tie's psychology more than a tactical means. Lang's injury interrupts momentum, tests a squad's depth, and invites questions about what's at stake in a knockout stage. Personal interpretation: it's a reminder that plans crack the moment human error, random surface contact, or bad fortune lines up with the crowd noise. The stadium becomes a theater where luck and risk collide in real time. Why it's interesting: fans and analysts often chase the narrative arc, strategy, stamina, substitutions, but this shows the game's vulnerability to the unpredictable. It's a microcosm of how fragile success can be when a single touch goes wrong. What it implies: if a thumb can derail a game's secondary narrative, then medical contingency and squad versatility become almost as important as formation choices. It underscores the value of depth and quick decision-making in crisis moments. Broader trend: we're seeing more attention paid to in-game injuries and their immediate consequences, not just long-term fitness. The stadium as a pressure cooker amplifies even small physical catastrophes into talking points that dominate social feeds. The media, branding, and the spectacle of pain. What this matters: the initial reactions and on-camera moments shape a player's public story as much as the game result. Lang's crimson-wet hand and the stretcher ride become a storyline that travels faster than the fact that Galatasaray lost the tie on aggregate. Personal interpretation: there's a gravity to players being visible in pain, it humanizes them in a way that stats don't. But it also invites sensationalism: how the clip is framed, what angles are shown, and how commentary spins the moment. Why it's interesting: it exposes the tightrope between empathy and spectacle. Fans want safety narratives, while viewers crave dramatic content. Where do we draw the line between genuine concern and engagement-driven storytelling? What it implies: the incident becomes a case study in how clubs manage PR around injuries, how broadcasters calibrate coverage, and how fans consume dramatic injury visuals alongside tactical analysis. Broader trend: the line between sport and entertainment continues to blur, with high-stakes moments trending as short-form content across platforms, shaping players' reputations as much as their on-pitch deeds. The tactical indirectly revealed through absence. What this matters: Lang's removal tests Galatasaray's depth and forces a reshuffle mid-court of the pitch. Who steps in, how is the structure adjusted, and what small stylistic adjustments ripple through the rest of the game? Personal interpretation: absence is a reveal. A substitute isn't just a replacement, they probe vulnerabilities teams didn't show a minute earlier. The viewer learns as much about the squad's adaptability as about Lang's skill. Why it's interesting: it highlights coaches' confidence in a bench and their ability to pivot under pressure. The moment invites speculation about lineup psychology and how players communicate in crisis. What it implies: medical contingencies and substitution timing can become strategic levers. If a team can't absorb an injury smoothly, the game's outcome becomes as much about depth as technique. Broader trend: modern squads measure resilience not only by star power but by operational flexibility, how quickly they can remap roles when a key piece disappears. The numerical endgame: aggregate score and momentum. What this matters: the 4-1 aggregate margin frames the result as a narrative coda rather than a standalone moment. It colors the injury with the tone of unfinished business versus clean exit. Personal interpretation: the personal pain of Lang contrasts with the cold math of the tie, one human story against a broader result. The closer we get to knockout rounds, the more every minor event gets measured under a magnifying glass. Why it's interesting: it exposes how modern football uses multiple horizons, live match, aggregate, and potential rematches, to create a layered storytelling experience. What it implies: the scoreboard becomes a storytelling device that can mask or amplify the human drama of injuries. Viewers should be aware of how stats and outcomes shape perception of events. Broader trend: the convergence of live sports, analytics, and narrative means fans consume outcomes with a taste for both data and drama. The injury scene sits at the crossroads of both. Deeper insight: this incident isn't just about a single game, it's a lens into how audiences engage with football today. The clip travels across feeds, invites memes, and prompts debate about safety, stadium design, and player vulnerability. In my view, the real takeaway is not simply the risk players take but how teams, leagues, and media negotiate the balance between entertainment value and the humane side of sport. If you take a step back and think about it, we're watching a sport evolve as a media phenomenon where every scrape, stumble, or scream becomes a catalyst for conversation that outlives the match itself. This raises a deeper question: does the modern viewer reward resilience and recovery storytelling as much as flawless technique? Final thought: moments like this remind us that football is a living narrative, part sport, part theater, entirely unpredictable. The bigger question I'm left with is what kind of preparation and culture a club builds to handle the unplanned with grace under pressure, and a steady eye on the human side of the game. What do you think is the most important factor in turning a freak accident into a constructive, team-strengthening moment? Share your thoughts in the comments, and tell me which club you think handles injuries with the best balance of care, transparency, and strategic steadiness. If you found this breakdown interesting, I've got more coming where I break down how freak events reshape a season's narrative, the role of media framing in football, and what players themselves say in the hours after dramatic in-game injuries. Subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next analysis.